The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We're coming right out of the box. We have, I say, this radio show, myself, people that have been on the job with me. The quest for who is Barack Obama continues. Jim Emery is going to be on a radio show this morning from Ferguson. S.C. Sherman, as we talked about on Friday, Fakeahanas came to town, Elizabeth Warren, and we did a couple of days on this about this woman is a con. And as you know, she's the senator from Boston, and we have talked about her at great length. She claims to have been a Native American, much like our very own Ward Churchill. And she came to town to get out there and campaign for Mark Udall. We made a big stink about it, and a lot of people called a lot of the media outlets. You remember in Bambi, remember what Thumper the Rabbit said? If you can't say something nice about, maybe you could find that, Casey. It's one of the great lines from the motion picture Bambi, Walt Disney's classic, where Thumper the Rabbit says, if you can't say anything nice about someone, don't say anything at all. Well, again, a tree that falls in the forest if no one is there to hear it doesn't make a sound. Elizabeth Warren came to town and left town, and you know what? She did not leave a footprint. The Denver Front Range media took the Thumper the Rabbit approach and said, if you can't say something nice, like the truth, don't say anything. So S.C. Sherman comes back on. Also, we're going to help some folks out on a fundraiser, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West will be with us. You did find it?
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
There you are, and that's what happened with Elizabeth Warren. Ladies and gentlemen, please say good morning, and welcome back to 710 KNUS. I love this guy. I love his work. Randy Foreman on, of course,
Good morning, Peter.
Hey, who is Barack Obama? Hey, Randy, good morning.
Good morning to you, Peter. How are you doing today?
You know, and I'm good, bro. It's interesting. We did 2 straight days of lampooning, if you would, Mark Udall, and by the way, he is in the lead over Cory Gardner.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, he brought, first of all, the president came to town. I don't know if you remember all of this, and the Udall people they'd never showed up.
They didn't even want to show up.
Yeah,
That's right.
They took the money.
They took the money.
Yeah, they took the money, but they would not want the photographs of Udall and the president together. You know, that Hickenlooper ad's running. Long story short, so these guys thought they were hotsy-totsy, and they were going to run in Elizabeth Warren, also known as her Indian name Sakashia, or shops at Whole Foods.
Or Focushanas. Or what was it?
Fakeahanas.
Yeah.
Fakeahanas, or she who shops at Whole Foods. But what's ending, she's a fake Indian, and she's a real plagiarist. But so they brought her in. And I probably, let the cat out of the bag. We did a couple of mornings on it, and I said, let's watch Channel 9, let's watch the Denver Post, let's watch the Acclaim. Well, to my chagrin, I can't find one story that she was here. And so, but she was here, but I can't find any stories where she and Udall appeared together. And I thought to myself, gee, is this Thumper the Rabbit? Remember Thumper the Rabbit? Thumper the Rabbit said, if you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. And so I think that's the position the Front Range press took. They're not saying it, so not saying anything about anybody. So it is though, she came to town, she did what she did, and then she left. And they had lionized her. I mean, I kept all the things that were written and said in advance, including Eli Stokos on Fox News. I don't want to start that again this morning. Oh, Eli. But Lynn Bartles in the Post and all these other people. Oh, wow, wonderful. Oh, this wonderful woman. She's hopscotching Hillary Clinton. She is the front-running woman in the Democratic Party. Well, I guess these people must think that, well, I know what they think. They think that a bunch of stooges that think like them are sitting behind microphones and typewriters, and in fact, I think they're right. But Fakeahanas came to town, and nobody said anything.
No one said anything. Right.
You're not shocked. You're not shocked.
No, not shocked. Not shocked. It's the press.
Yeah.
It's the press. That's the way they are, and it's, I've met sorts of people like that here in Washington, and that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think the big problem is that people, I think people think that, well, are they ever going to change? No, they're not. The only way that they change is that conservatives and libertarians, we get our own alternative media.
Or just people that are fed up. And I don't care. Maybe, I hope there's such a thing as a fed up Democrat. I don't know.
There's a growing percentage of those sorts of people here in this country anymore, as you may know. But that's like I said, that is happening.
Sure.
And people, I mean, as you referenced the Ferguson case that you're going to be doing later. I mean, that particular show, that particular episode. I mean, there's all sorts. If I read WorldNet Daily afterwards. They said that there were all sorts of spontaneous rallies that arose in support of the officer.
Sure.
Are any of those covered?
No.
But they are covered on your show, which is the number one rated talk show in Denver.
I wish, we do well. But what's interesting to me is the Ferguson case is a classic where Eric Holder comes to town and goes and sees the family of the gentle giant, does not go to see the cop. That's not a story. The people who armed themselves and defended their businesses, they're not a story. There's a beating that took place this weekend where these black guys attacked this white couple. That's not a story. I mean, we go on and on and on and on, but principally, I guess now that what does Limbaugh call him? F. Chuck Todd has Meet the Depressed. They're going to do the segment things that the people don't talk about in Washington, and so I'm thinking, well, how about the birth certificate? How about that scandal? You know, and I know, and I love you for your work, Randy. They ain't going to do that, are they?
They're not going to talk about it. I mean, but you know what's amazing is how the story continually comes up, you know, out of the middle of nowhere. Sometimes you could be, you know, I mean, I could be with someone and, you know, all of a sudden this comes up. It's just, it has an element, I mean, how do I say it? It has an element, there's, you know, God, it's kind of like you got to put an element of God into it, but it just kind of keeps coming up. Yeah. I mean, and it's
so here
amazing.
we go. I understand. And first of all, I should have done this, and I apologize. Do a quick a bio, Randy, of yourself, if you would.
Sure.
Yeah.
I write for a website called newsblaze.com. I'm based here in Washington, D.C. Basically I'm trying, you know, basically trying to get this website going and everything else, and nonetheless, I've decided if I wanted to go to political events here in town, I better write about them. So this is what I've done is I've started writing for a website called Newsblaze, and one of the passions that I have is this story about where's Barack Obama's birth certificate. I've had that all since this has come up. And no one has ever answered the question sufficiently to me. I mean, to you either.
No.
I mean, and we've never gotten an answer.
No.
We've never gotten an answer. And so I've done some work here and there. I've various different ways I've tried doing stuff on this story. And it's astonishing to me just how people will tolerate this kind of fraud. It's just, I mean, there are people in Washington who will talk about fuzzy wuzzies at a briefing, but they can't talk about this.
Well, I mean, the whole thing going back to when it all begins. Now I guess 7 years ago, when people started to whisper in my ear, "Hey, Pete, this guy doesn't have any bona fides. He doesn't have any credentials." And at first blush, being honest, I thought, oh, nonsense. I just thought, oh, crazy. And then I took a couple of afternoons and I started to read, and I went, oh my God, there's not one document that is in the sunlight, or as the man said that he was going to be the most transparent administration in history. There's nothing. In other words, I mean, we go down a list of things, and if they do exist, they have been suppressed.
And this story, the thing is, Peter, this story answers everything that is wrong in Washington.
I agree.
Everything.
I agree.
Mean, everything that's wrong. You can answer Benghazi with this story. You can answer Fast and Furious with this story. You can answer the IRS story. All of those stories can be answered with this birth certificate. It's strange how it comes down to just this document.
And I always take that line from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when they keep saying, "Who are those guys?" And we don't know. I swear. I mean, and now more and more people. The other morning, we had Pat Buchanan on the radio show, and Buchanan said, "Yeah, we don't know." And you get on a list of people. I mean, we every once in a while get some. They say black print name, some bold print name that wanders in here. And I always bring it up, and you know what? To the person, they go, "Yeah, we don't know." And the other morning, Friday, no, shut up. William Fortune, who, and he said in a private conversation, his writing partner is Newt Gingrich. He said, "I just can't get Newt to bite on it." And but he said on the air, he said whether he's talking about, 1 second after in his new book that's coming, and said, that's right. No one knows who this guy is, and he's a pretty predominant historian, and he knows that nobody knows who this guy is. And I had a congressperson tell me, "Yeah, everybody in Washington knows that the story's not straight."
Well, like I said, it's a strange. I mean, I talked with the congressional staffer the other day and said, "Well, why won't you guys do something about it?" "Well, you look foolish doing it." Well,
no, you don't.
What kind of? But the real problem is, what kind of catastrophe is going to have to happen before all of a sudden people say, we got to do something about this? Well, and that's
Hitchcock. I always use this term. I read this biography of Alfred Hitchcock, who was as brilliant as he was twisted as he was brilliant. But he had this thing that he called the MacGuffin. And he would, every one of his films, he had a MacGuffin in it. And the best example of a MacGuffin was the lovebirds in the movie The Birds. And they were just there. Remember, she brings them in her Aston Martin up to see, what was his name, Robert Taylor, but I think it was Robert Taylor, but I forget the actor, it doesn't matter, but he was up, she takes the birds to his little sister. Well, the birds are those two little birds are in all the interior shots, and in the end, when the family sneaks out, she brings the little birds with her. Those little birds are called the MacGuffin, and it's the focus point that nobody sees, but it's a focus point. So I think, and it's not just a birth certificate, is it, Randy?
No, it's not just the birth certificate. I mean, it explains everything in this town. It explains everything that's going wrong. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, and that's why I've wanted to go after this. If no other media is doing this, to me, this is a growth area.
Yeah, nobody in Denver.
People want to hear, I would say beyond Washington want to know about this.
I agree.
I'm sure that's why you've had me on several times.
Many times. I have a list of we have a list of people. Joel Gilbert has become a good friend, and you get a moment to see that film Road to Utopia. It's very good. He did the original, Dreams from My Real Father, and somebody put we get all this. How do I say this? I'm sort of in the epicenter of the people like yourself, who I have so much respect for, your total lack of fear and your straight ahead views of the world. But have you seen this thing that's floating around called coincidences? Have you seen this?
I haven't seen that. That I haven't seen.
All right, so I carry files and folders and stuff around of Obama, but this guy, this is an interesting. Any one of these coincidences, when taken in a singular fashion, appear not to mean much. I can't talk this morning. But when taken as a whole, a computer would blow a main circuit if you ask it to calculate the odds that have occurred by chance alone. Sit back, get a favorite beverage, and then read and ponder the Obama coincidences. And it is, and I'll just read you the first paragraph. Barack Obama just happened to know 60s far-left radical revolutionary William Ayers, whose father just happened to be Thomas Ayers, who just happened to be a close friend of Obama's communist mentor, Frank Marshall Davis, who just happened to later have the father-in-law of an Iranian-born leftist, Valerie Jarrett, who Obama just happened to choose as his closest White House advisor, who just happened to have been the CEO of Habitat Company, which just happened to manage the public housing in Chicago, which just happened to get millions of dollars from Illinois state legislators, which just happened not to properly maintain the housing, which eventually was going to acquire demolition. I mean, that's just one And Valerie Jarrett just happened to work for the city of Chicago, just happened to hire Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, later Mrs. Barack Obama, who just happened to be working in the Sidney Austin law firm, whose former fugitive from the FBI, Bernadette Doran, just happened to work, and where Barack Obama just happened to get a summer job. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, and I would add to that, Obama just happened to come from a state where the birth statute said you could provide unsworn testimony for an unattended birth. I mean, one more. Let me read you one more, and then the guy who makes this whole radio show, it's his work. He's going to put this up. Bernadette Doran, they just do this in jobs, who just happened to be married to William Ayers, whom she just happened to have hidden from the FBI in San Francisco Marina, along with Donald Warden, who just happened to change his name to Khalid al-Mansour, and al-Mansour just happened to be the mentor of Black Party founder Huey Newton, a close associate of Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, and al-Mansour just happened to be a financial advisor to a Saudi prince who just happened to donate cash for which Obama just happened to get a critical letter of recommendation from Percy Sutton, who just happened to have been the attorney for Malcolm X, who just happened to know Kenyan politician Thomas Mboya, who just happened to be a close friend of Barack Obama Sr., who just happened, it just goes like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. We should put, Mr. C is going to put that up for folks this morning. And I always call them coinkadinks. Yeah. And they just keep going. They just keep going.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's it's interesting. I mean, interesting. When I went to church on Easter Sunday, the pastor referenced this thing called Bayes' theorem about Christ. You're talking about the odds. You know, if you look at the odds that what it takes for a person for someone to meet all of the different or all of the witnesses after when Christ was crucified, or whatever, and how all of that proves, that just isn't just a coincidence.
Oh, they're not.
And this is even more tighter than, I wouldn't say more tighter, but I would just say, it's like it's something like Bayes' theorem, basically.
Yeah, it said, I'm going to put this up. It's a series of paragraphs, about 15 of them. Barack Obama joined the Trinity United Church of Christ, whose pastor just happened to be Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who just happened to preach Marxism and black liberation, who just happened to deliver anti-white, anti-Jewish, anti-American sermons, which Obama just happened to never to hear because he just happened to miss church only on the days where Wright was his most enthusiastic. And Obama just happened never to notice that Oprah Winfrey left the church because it was too radical, and just happened never to notice that the church gave the vile anti-Semitic leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's just great. It's just great.
It just keeps going, doesn't it, Peter?
Yeah, hang on. Hang on. Let me get us back on track. I know that you just met with Zulo. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll bring you back. All right, hang on, sir. I love this guy. And it's time we go and pull that scab back again. Randy Foreman.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.